Hi, friends. We are extremely lucky to have today on our podcast, Heart Life Rhythm, an extremely special guest. He is a highly decorated ex-Indian Navy officer who is also a war veteran. He is an incredibly inspiring speaker, and whenever I've had the opportunity to listen to him speak on public platforms, I've always come out enlightened, learning something in the process, something or the other. So it gives me a great amount of pleasure to welcome today on our podcast Lieutenant Commander Vijay Nair. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jamina. Absolute honor. And, I was telling someone that, I've given hosts of podcasts, so many this thing, but probably this would be first time that someone is interviewing me outside India. So that makes it special.
Nice.
I can
Thank
also
you,
say
sir.
that, I've been interviewed or podcasted by someone outside India. So
I hope one of many for you. So
yeah, thank you so much.
I have a lot of questions floating in my mind, so I think we'll just dive in. And I think the easiest way would be for me to ask you, sir, about your background, where you grew up, and your childhood, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'm a naval veteran. I'm from the, ex-Indian Navy, and I'm an Indian, first of all. Yeah, because, since you are from, you're speaking from other side,
Yeah.
From a different continent. So I spent 10 years with the Navy, Indian Navy, in the uniformed services. And I finished my commission as a lieutenant commander.
Yeah.
So lieutenant commander in the Indian Navy means it's equivalent to a major in the army or a squadron leader in the Air Force. So,
Okay.
so I was born and brought up in Mumbai. So Mumbai is the heart of the
Amchi
what we call
Mumbai.
the financial capital of Maharashtra, Amchi Mumbai. So yeah, so that's how. And currently I reside in Mumbai.
Okay.
Post my the commitment to the armed forces. So I reside in Mumbai in one of the suburbs,
Okay.
and growing up was tough. It was not easy because I'm 1976 born, and predominantly that was the time when economy was not opened. Globalization had not happened in India, and that's how what we call the Raj time was going on. And so like when we talk about our parents or anybody
Yeah.
from that generation, they never had opportunity in terms of work, in terms of job, and in terms of various things.
Okay.
Now typically, like my father, he had worked in an organization for close to 40 years, and when he retired from there. Now when today if you ask any youngster, they won't budge you with that idea of spending 40 years in an organization, So that's because very, very rare, right? Someone spending 3, 4 years, 5 years is max in today's generation. But why those people, why my parents or why, someone of their generation would have spent that much time is because, you never had an opportunity. So that was the main thing. So yeah, so growing up was tough. And since he comes from Kerala,
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure you know Kerala. So
Of course,
it's a
I've
state
been. I've visited. Beautiful place.
so it's a very beautiful place, and we are basically a Kerala. So only the unfortunate part, like I tell in all my talks and all my podcast or wherever I speak. See, education becomes very, very important. Why education becomes important? Because my father, though I come from a very he come from a very affluent family, rather
Okay.
his father was a businessman and things like that. But the perils of having money at certain time is twofold. Either you go in right way or you go in wrong way.
Wrong way.
So that is where education becomes important. And during their time, he had facility. It was not that he didn't have, but unfortunately, he chose. He left his school earlier,
Okay.
and then that's how he only studied till 6th standard or 7th standard.
Okay.
And then he was like so communism run. There are two states in India where where people are communist. One is Kerala and one is Bengal, right? So even today, as we speak, even today, like the political scenario in India, like if you see the major parties are BJP and Congress and all,
Yeah.
but only two states where communism is still there. Though Bengal is still, far left behind, but Kerala is still very strong.
Okay.
So he followed a communist ideology doing growing up, and that is how he thought that he never wanted any wealth of his father. He wanted to do something on his own, and that's how at that age, he didn't have proper education, and when he grew up, like when he was in his 20s, he ran away and he came to Mumbai. That's how
Wow.
we became a Mumbai or a Maharashtra more of a.
He ran
So,
away
yeah.
on his own.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So someone of his colleagues who were there in Kerala, they said, if you come into Mumbai, you will have plenty of job opportunities and all. But nobody told that education was equally important. So that's how he landed in Maharashtra, and he started his career as a taxi driver.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he had a driving skill, and that's how he became a cab driver or a chauffeur to someone who gave him a job. And he was driving well, but he soon realized, I can't sustain this as a future. I can't be a taxi driver for the rest of my life. And that is how he started, dwelling into the ITI. So ITI is getting some technical skill.
Okay.
So he studied to become an electrician, a skill which he acquired as an electrician.
Okay.
And thereafter, the same person whom he was driving, so he was owning a company, a small scale SME.
Okay.
And then
Small and medium.
that's how he got his first job as a technician there in that company. And that's where the journey began for him. And later he worked in that company, climbing all the ladders, and eventually that communism ran through, and he became a union leader over there. And
Okay.
he was very dynamic, very aggressive, but at the same time very people loving. But the lack of education somewhere affected, and then he was more for everybody else, and for us also, he never allowed anything. We were never wanting anything, but he ensured that our lives were better. In whatever we needed, he was there. But we couldn't be lavish. We never had so much of money because his salary, you can imagine an electrician those days,
Could
in
not
80s and
afford.
90s.
Yeah.
Salaries were hardly 3,000, 4,000 monies in INR, rather, Indian rupee. So growing was not easy. So we stayed in a house which was, hardly 150 square feet. So when I say 150 square feet, so in Mumbai, in India, like, the movie Slumdog Millionaire made the slums popular. So our house was situated in a slum, and
Okay.
it was more like a 150 square feet.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so growing up there was challenge. Every day used to be a challenge because the people who stay surrounded you, or a place where he grew up, it was a very small place with all of them coming from similar background. So the thought process and all, it did affect because it was struggle every day. But thanks to I learned a lot of things from there. How to live in minimums, not yes, I had great aspiration, but I was also aware of like how to live in a quantified thing, rather. So it helped, and we come from a very small school. Our school was a small English medium school which was run by a trust,
Okay.
a Malayali trust.
Mhm.
And so that was my schooling from there. And then 3 siblings. Those days, when we talk today would be the generation of one kid,
Yeah.
or at the max 2 kid would be a max thing. But we were we are three brothers, and so we lived very happily in that place, even till very happily. And mother played a very crucial role in our upbringing,
Okay.
because she knew that education was important. She comes from a family of educated people, but unfortunately she couldn't. She was married when she was 14 years old, so a child marriage sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's how she couldn't pursue her education. And then I was born when she was 16, rather. So
Wow.
if you see me and my mother, we may look like a brother and a sister. That's what she don't have even a single gray hair. even
Wow.
today. So that's what was my upbringing.
Okay.
So the locality or the community where we live, that was always there used to be a lot of fights, and 80s and 90s were not very happening in Mumbai. So a lot of the law and order was tough. There were communal riots, couple of communal riots which happened
Okay.
in 1984 and 1992.
Okay.
So we saw through the communal riots. So we saw through various gang wars between various gangs and all. So that is how tough life was.
Wow.
But in all that, the aspirations were big. All of us, we knew that we have to get out from this place. Because we loved that place. It's not that we didn't, but we knew that we can't be here forever. That's how you grow continually. And so that was my journey.
Wow.
So,
thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Thank you. I think it will inspire a lot of people. I wanted to ask you, sir, did you always want to join the Indian Navy as a child, or?
No, not at all. Not at all. So, as I said, growing in a small place, we never knew about Army, Navy, Air Force. To be very frank, we never knew, and that was never a career option. That was never a career option, because since we were not knowing about it, and those days, like what today we have, what we call, you have theater in your hands. That is your mobile. You have Netflix. You have Prime. You have any damn thing if you want. Those days, we had only 2 television channels. There were only 2 national channels which used to play. And not many would have television sets at home. So it was a privilege having a television set at home. So we grew up watching. Yeah, we grew up watching National 1 and National 2 TV. And so my tryst with the armed forces came from that television or the media.
Okay.
Where they used to run one serial, a Hindi serial called Fauji.
The one with Shah Rukh Khan?
Yeah, so Shah Rukh Khan's first serial, when Shah Rukh Khan was. Yeah. And even Shah Rukh never thought that he would be a superstar someday. But that was how he began. And somewhere seeing that serial, Fauji, instilled that, sense of uniform, the pride of having uniform. And that is when that first thing, started, what we say, that the first hit or the trigger point, that first trigger point happened. Okay, this can be my career and I want to be here. So that is how the first military inclination started. And then for joining Navy, I stay very close to a naval colony, a naval civilian colony.
Okay.
And then very close. We used to stay very close to, adjacent to our house used to be, the slums which we were was very adjacent to that,
Okay.
And then we used to see their lifestyle. They had plenty of place. They had grounds. They have every damn thing. And then we were studying, And then we used to wonder how so much, how they have so much. And that is how, and
you got the idea.
Yeah, during weekends, we used to trespass. We used to go inside the colony to play cricket.
Oh.
It was not allowed, but we used to trespass. And seeing their lifestyle, it inspired that someday I will also be in white, and that's the power of visualization. So I visualized that day, that someday I'll be in that white uniform and I would be entering the same colony officially in that white uniform rather than
Wow.
trespassing. And that's the power of visualization.
Yeah.
And it did happen exactly some 20 years later. It did happen. And I did go in that white uniform in that same colony. That's the journey. That's the beautiful journey which happened. And yes,
Goodness.
once you decide to join something, then the quest begin to know how you will join. Okay, and that is how I came to know about the national level examination called National Defense Academy, or the INA exams.
Okay.
So I studied for that. I prepared for the so self study. It was self study. So NDA exams, INA exams are one of the toughest exams because
yeah.
because nowhere like IIT. IIT is a different ball game because they are much more intelligent people. But why I consider the armed forces exam as tough, because after your written examination, there are 10 lakhs of people who would be appearing for that, and there are only
Oh.
330 seats. There are only 330 seats out of 10 lakhs of people. And once you clear your examination, then that 10 lakh becomes 1 lakh. 9 lakh people will go. And then you have to appear for 5 days of interview, what we call as SSB interview, Service Selection Board interview.
Okay.
And after that, if you clear Service Selection Board, the rate of clearance of Service Selection Board exam is very minuscule. So out of hundreds and hundreds, only 5 or 6 clear. There are various tests to go in that 5 days. You have to align with the military requirement. So that is what they want. They want to see in you certain things, right? And once you get shortlisted for that, then comes your 5 days of medical examination.
Okay.
It's very stringent, very, very stringent. You cannot, even if one negative pointer and you are on cold list, or you are out. And if you clear everything, you come in the merit list. Then you have to come in that merit list.
Okay.
Can
I ask a small question just before we go on? Just for people, young men or women even, who would like to join, in terms of the medical requirements, can you give us some examples? Not go through the whole list, but a few examples
For the medical?
What kind of medical fitness do they need?
Okay, so medical fitness, like they see your eyes, it has to be 6x6. It has to be 6x6. You cannot
without corrective lenses.
Even if you have corrective this thing, even if you wear specs, there are only certain number, 0.25 or something. And your vision should be 6x6. Even after that correction, it should come to 6x6. Then talking about your teeth, you should have all the molar points intact, that 32 number, what we say. Then you cannot have a tattoo on your body, no tattoos on your body. Yeah, so that's a requirement.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so then you should not have a knock knee. So when you stand, your knee should not knock. You cannot have a flat feet. So that is one requirement. Then you cannot be obese.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
And of course, these are all some things are permanent. Like if I have a vision, color blindness, for example, then you are out. You are not fit for the armed forces. Trust me, many of them come to know when they go for the medical, when they get selected, and when they are in medical, they come to know that they are colorblind. That also happens. So it's pretty heartbreaking. And for me, for the first time when I appeared after my 12th, the ND exam, so everything went right. I cleared exam. I got shortlisted to 5. I cleared SSB. I went there, and I was out medically. I had a vision issue. 6x6 was not matching.
Okay.
So I couldn't clear for the first time. So I was medically out after my 12th standard. And then it was pretty heartbreaking, like you have desired, you have dreamt of that, wearing that uniform, But so then I came back home. It was pretty depressing. And, first 1 month, I never had any other, everything died down for me per se, because though I was given a temporary rejection in medical, but then for you to appeal against that, you need to go to the command hospital, which is in New Delhi.
Oh.
Okay. And those days, since I stay at Mumbai and we didn't have that much money to appeal and go, and so my father was like, no, I cannot stand.
Mhm.
So yeah, I had to forgo that. And then I went to do my engineering. So I'm an engineering graduate. And
Okay.
yeah, so 4 years of engineering. And
So more studying after all these very tough exams.
yeah, so after clearing all these exams and then finally I thought I should have some professional degree.
Okay,
So
wow.
that's why I enrolled into engineering. And first 2 years of engineering was disaster, to be very frank, because as I said, my heart was not here because my heart was somewhere else, and that showed in my performance in my exams. Engineering. So first 2 years I had a lot of backlogs in terms of papers. And while in third year, there was a advertisement which was put on a college notice board saying that, join Indian Navy in technical branch as an engineer. There you required first class in your last 4 semesters. Engineering is 8 semesters, so last 4 semesters. So I appeared for the last 4 semesters. I, prepared hard, studied hard, and eventually I got first class in all the last 4 semester, which was a requisite for you to appear for the Navy exams. Then I appeared for the Navy exams, and then I cleared the exams again. I cleared the interviews again. Medically, the same issue did crop up, but it was, again, as I said, it was a border case. So that's how it
You got
went.
in.
And I was lucky that I got in this time. And when the merit list came, I was falling your rank 4 in that merit.
Goodness.
So
So it was all meant
that
to
was
be.
the
It was
journey.
in your destiny.
Yeah, destiny plus your perseverance. You
Yes,
should have a very, very
definitely.
strong perseverance, passion to wear that universe. So as we rightly say, no, it should be your passion should fuel your progression, your perseverance. Your passion and perseverance should fuel your progression. So for me, in that case, it was all about that. All about that. I just hold on. I just hung on. Okay, someday it will happen. Someday it will happen. And yeah, so I was there in the Naval Academy. That's how my journey from a small place to a small school. When people say that you should be from a fancy school or a fancy background, or you should be, I don't believe in that. Life gives you an opportunity. Life gives opportunity to each and everyone, and we should know when it is the time to grab it. Trust me, it happens. Trust me, as we rightly say that destiny. It's somehow the destiny. So they say, when you think about something so strongly, the entire universe converges to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Only thing is, you should know when is that right time.
Yeah.
So that's all. That's all.
Wow, that's incredibly inspiring. Thank you. How was your first day in the Navy once you finished your training and everything? I'm sure you remember it. What are some memories of that? The first few days of it. Was it all that you had imagined, when you were studying this hard? Is this what you found on your first day, or was it different?
First day was very, 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 very funny and very, very shocking. When I say funny, because we've been knowing that you're going into academy, and whatever you have seen Shah Rukh Khan doing in that serial, that is going to happen to you, right? So when we landed on the railway station, so Naval Academy was in Goa that time. Goa is a place in India, Goa.
Yeah, I know Goa. Yeah.
Goa is a very happening place in India.
Yeah.
A lot of beaches and things like that. So our
Parties.
academy was there. So when we reached the railway station, we went by train, and then there were people who were there to receive you.
Okay.
The Navy sailors were there to receive you, and they politely, we thought this is how the life is. So when we entered academy, when we reached the academy gate, we had to keep our luggage at the gate.
Okay.
And one of those senior guy came, and we were in our civil dress, and the punishment started right from the gate. He started making some funny positions. The
Like
what we say
ragging.
here,
Like,
ragging. It is not ragging. This it's welcome to military. So ragging is a negative word. So and then first day, I was from the engineering background, and remember, I was going after my fourth year. When I was in fourth year, I was also general secretary in my college. I was an appointment, so you had all the privileges. You were having funny hair and stylish hair and all. And the first day, what they did was they cut your hair to zero, not zero cut, what they call, and they remove your mustache. And life is hell. Okay, your wake up time, the first alarm or the first morning, the thing starts at 4:30 in the morning. 0430 is your
Okay.
wake up time, followed by all your activities, which is time defined. Everything is time defined. 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 11 minutes, and then you have to finish in that.
okay.
The first few weeks were tough. First few weeks were very tough because we were not used to a routine. And then we started meeting our fellow naval batchmates who later, would turn to be everything for you in your life, the best friends and all.
Okay.
So all of us started knowing each other. We used to get punishment together, and punishment was for any stupid things. Even we never knew why we were given a punishment. So you were rolling throughout. Some funny things used to happen. You were always running around. So there were no. So in academy and all, they don't permit you to walk when you are in the first term, zero term.
Okay.
So the only thing was that when will this get over? And there were drills, there were PT, there were sports, there were swimming, there were so many things to be in. Along with that, your studies, studies also. Plus, whatever the punishment sessions, then every senior would give you some or the other thing. Because, there are 6 terms in the academy, and each term, there are seniors, right? So, if a 6th term will punish 5th term, or 5th termers will punish 4th termers, 4th termers will come to the 1st termers,
What was the worst punishment that was given to you?
Yeah,
Do you
so
remember?
worst punishment was, when we were in, I think 4-5 months old in academy. One afternoon we were told to roll
Okay.
for some reason, and we were rolling without our shirts in a temperature of 32, 33 degree on a tar road without our shirts. The entire back was gone.
Oh.
Your entire back was scraped in sun,
Okay.
and it was bleeding. But that's how it is. That's how it is. And then when you come home, when you come back to your dormitory or place where you stay, you're applying all those medicine and things, and then you're ready for the next day. So that I remember was one of the harshest
Toughest.
punishment which we had met in academy.
Okay. And you've been involved in the Kargil conflict. Can you tell us a little bit about this, about your particular experience of Kargil?
Yeah. Incidentally, this could be the 25th year of the Kargil conflict, rather. Now, so we should know that Kargil is the name of the place where the thing happened, the Kargil district, which we call. And it was because of the media and news channels that was made popular as Kargil War. Otherwise, this was called Operation Vijay. That is what it was actually called, Operation Vijay. And Operation Vijay was, so Navy called it as Operation Talwar, and Air Force called it as Operation Safed Sagar. And it was a tri-services war. That is what I tell everybody. it was not only army who were there, it was army, navy, air force, all three of us. Now, a very valid question which many of laymen would ask: how can a naval ship reach Kargil? Kargil is a mountainous terrain and there is no water around. So we have to understand that Pakistan, when we say about Pakistan, it's not only about coming to Kargil, but if you see on the west side, there is a port called Okha in Gujarat. That is closest to Karachi and other place. It's only 36 nautical mile, and then the international water which separates you. So what Navy did throughout this war was we blocked the entire logistics to Pakistan. Now, imagine if we block the entire logistics, nothing comes in Pakistan port.
Yeah.
And that is one way of alternate war which people. Now, the Army Air Force was fighting the physical war there, and we were fighting a war, strategic war, where we were blockading things which were going to Pakistan. Ultimately, they had only 6 days of fuel and other thing left in that country. And Indian Navy under Operation Talwar, we were 33 ships, 36 ships, and some number of submarines and aerial weaponizers, planes, and the Marine Commandos. So many people, and we never did anything covertly. We announced to the world that we are there, right?
Okay.
And why Kargil conflict happened was because there's a treaty between India and Pakistan that when the winter onset, so Pakistan will go back and India will go back, come back rather. So there is this unmanned territory where nobody is supposed to be there, right?
Okay.
But that year, 1998, 1999, Pakistan occupied that place. India came back happily, thinking that a treaty is there,
agreement had been met.
And then simultaneously we were fostering friendship with Pakistan. Prime Minister then, the great Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he went to Lahore. They were hugging each other. They were having biryani and so many things on friendship, embarking on a friendship journey. Somehow, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was not knowing that what is happening this side. So Pakistan under Pervez Musharraf usurped that place, grabbed that place, And by the time we came to know, it was too late. And we only came to know through some shepherds who were locals of there. They came and reported to our army base that there is some, something different here. There are people who are not the normal invaders or terrorists or something. They look like army personnel. And that is how the Kargil conflict started. And we sent Captain Saurabh Kalia and 5 other men. Our Lal. So there are 5 people who went along with Captain Saurabh.
Okay.
To do a recce to find out who are they.
Okay.
Unfortunately, all these brave soldiers were caught and they were killed. All of them were caught and killed. And when we received their, when we received their body, it was mutilated very badly. They had tortured them so bad. There were cigarette marks on their bodies. All the bones were broken. Teeth were broken. Your genitals were cut. Eyes were gouged out. So it was pretty inhuman, very inhuman. So when we got them back, that is the time we realized that it is not just a thing. It was not just a capture. And why to capture them? Why to make them a prisoner of war? Because nothing sort of thing happened.
Yeah.
That is how we declared a war against Pakistan that day in 1999. So you have started. The first bullet was fired by you. Now the last bullet, we will decide when to end it. That was the statement given. That's how we went in war. See, nobody wants war. Nobody wants. Even an army, greatest of the army would not want a war. So you wear uniform, everything to defend your nation, to ensure that nobody attacks your sovereignty, your people. And you always prepare. That's the irony. You defend, but you prepare for a war. That's the irony. And when the day happens, that day happens. So you're all alone there. I appreciate those people, those soldiers who were fighting for Pakistan. They are also soldiers. They were fighting for their country.
Yeah.
So we Indians, as Indians, we were fighting for our country. And yes, I had the privilege of being in that ship, one of those 36 ships. I was in one of those ships, as a training officer. I was
Wow.
just finished my training from academy and I was there on that ship. And yeah, so that's how I landed there. And that was this great, when we say, as my commanding officer would say, either you will be history or you will create a history, So yes, that historical thing today we remember it as Kargil War, 25 years. See, as Navy, we don't get to do individual glory like Army, like Captain Batra or Captain Manoj Pandey, Captain Anuj,
Yeah.
or anybody. For Navy, it's about team. It's about the entire ship which kills, and that's how we were part of that event which happened. And eventually we won Kargil. Pakistan, submitted themselves because of various reasons. Because the Pakistan, as a country, were not ready to accept that it is their army. So they lost their people. The army itself lost faith on leadership and the army leadership as well as the political leadership. So yeah, it was a learning lesson for many of the young officers and soldiers from the Pakistani army itself. That their country is not owning them. So this is the saga of that war. Whereas India and Indian, we had glory, and whereas the Pakistani soldiers and officers, they saw betrayal from their own people.
Yeah.
That's Kargil War, and yeah, I'm privileged. Wear that Kargil War medal on my uniform.
Yeah. Wow. Have you had any particularly scary or strange experience on the, in the ocean as part of the Navy? Anything that scared you?
Yeah. So like being in a ship is an experience in itself, because we only join ship at a certain age. When we reach certain age, after joining academies and when you get a ship posting. So so for me, rather than any unusual thing which I saw in the ocean, more than that, I was prone to seasickness.
Oh, okay.
So when we say seasickness, like your ship is a moving body. So you have roll, you have pitch, you have yaw. So your center of gravity is not stable. So what happens is you tend to vomit, puke. It's like a mountain sickness or a diving sickness.
Yeah.
And the intensity is pretty high. So for my first experience was really, really bad. So first 7 days I was only puking. To the tune, I remember the blood stains started coming out from my mouth in my puke.
Because you were retching so much.
Yeah, because when you vomit so much, your entire line starts.
Yeah.
The blood stains started coming in the vomit. So it was very scary. First 10 days was really like, I was like, where am I? Okay, I just don't want to go back to land. But yes, then eventually you settle down. And then ocean is a very beautiful place, and it tests you badly because, when the monsoon happened, I was there in the sea during monsoon. So the waves go up and down, and we call sea state 0, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So you toss up and down, and in all those things you have to also do your work, right?
Oh.
You have to do your duty, you have to do your watch, you have to sleep, all those things. You have to prepare for so many things. So yeah, that was challenging. So that was one scariest of the experience which I didn't see. Otherwise, yeah, it was fun. Lot of learning. I spent 3 times I was on ship, the naval ships. So yeah, each experience. First time was scary, but rest 2 times it was fun. It was, nothing to worry in terms of seasickness and all.
No scary creatures, no sea monsters.
Oh, so see, when we talk about scary creatures and all, that's the
Oh,
story
unusual,
created by so
unusual.
many seasons. But yes, you do get scared when you are in ocean. You do get scared. I was in the middle of ocean. You get that eerie feeling. Some day it is full moon, some day it is dark, some day so many things happen. But naval ships compared to the merchant naval ships, the Indian naval warships are always full of people. Full of people. If a merchant ship will have 10, 12 people, naval ship will have hundreds of people. So there are always people around you. So the chance of you getting scared is very, very less.
Okay.
I did see a lot of dolphins, flying fish, and all in the ocean. So that's pretty fun. That was pretty fun.
Nice. Just changing gear a little bit. So recently, in recent times, we've heard a lot in the news about pirates hijacking fishing boats. And in fact, I think recently, this week, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Indian Navy rescued a fishing ship which actually contained, I think, 20 plus Pakistani nationals. Have you ever had any experience with such rescue missions?
No, because since I doing my tenure in ship, so we were in international waters and all, but we never got a chance to be involved in saving someone from piracy because I sailed during the 90s, 90s and early 2000s.
Okay.
That time piracy was not that prevalent. Piracy started only in the later decade. So because of various reasons, piracy started because of easy money, and then in order to assert the ransom. So that is how the piracy started in that entire channel. But a few years back, there were changes in regulation. Then the merchant naval ships. See, piracy never happens to a warship because pirates never dare to come near a warship because they know that you will be tackled very badly. So that is why pirates always target the merchant ships.
Soft target.
Because they carry a lot of goods, they carry various cargoes, and they know that if I get a ship under me, I can ask for a ransom, whatever I want. So that is how the genesis of piracy started. But of late, few years back, the regulation started allowing the merchant naval ships to carry their own weapons, carry the people who can have weapons on the ship in order to prevent piracy and fight. Still, piracy was happening. That's why all the countries agreed to send their navies turn by turn in that particular stretch of ocean, and now all the navies are there. So that is why you can hear a lot of piracy attempt is being prevented, and Indian Navy is playing a very, very pivotal role there. Last 2 months, we have saved Pakistanis, we have saved Iranis, we have saved so many people.
Quite a lot, yeah.
So many people. And these pirates know that they can't challenge us. We have in commandos, we have the latest of equipments and everything. So that is how that is how.
Are there any special piece of equipment that the Navy uses traditionally or new technology in order to tackle those pirates? Is there anything that works particularly well or that's usually used? I'm trying to imagine how does the Navy tackle, a pirated ship?
Like as I said, we are trained people. Navy have trained people.
Yeah, of course.
We say about the Marine commandos, they are trained for the anti-piracy. They are trained for everything, And pirates cannot be much more agile than the Marine commandos.
Of course,
because
yeah.
They are. And then there are tracking system, there are surveillance system, lot of surveillance system, tracking system, pre-warning system, pre-alarming system. So many things are there. So we always have a much better and upper hand compared to any pirates. If you see pirates as a whole, they are poor people. The people who are operating as a pirate, they are poor people. They are high on drugs, they are high on alcohols, and for them, money is important. There would be handlers who would be doing that for ransom, but the people who participate as a pirates, they are very, very Small people. And I say small in terms of money and other things. For them, the requirement is some money, drugs, alcohol, and that's it.
Mm.
So so there is no comparison per se.
No, of course. Okay. So we're living in very difficult times. Geopolitically, things are moving very quickly with technology, regional conflict, equations between neighboring countries are changing very quickly. What do you think, according to you, is the main threat at the moment in the Indian Ocean? And how do you think the Indian Navy is going to change in the short future, in the next few years, to tackle all these challenges? So, main threat in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, for India is emerging as a superpower.
Yeah.
Last 10 years, we are there on the global scenario. We have a very strong leader in Narendra Modi, and irrespective of, I don't have a very political lineage to many parties, but he's a great leader because someone who stands out, someone whom the world respect. That is what is needed. And India is developing technologically, and the entire world have our competent human power, which is from India. Most of the places people here are technically savvy, technologically savvy, hardworking and all.
Yeah.
So in order to assure that place in the world, India need to be strong at Army, Navy, Air Force front. And now when we talk about Navy, the biggest threat comes as China, because China is a superpower. And as we talk right now, there are Chinese vessels left, right, and center. And there are, always that fight for strategic places in the sea, some island or something. Very recently, Maldives had changed their alliance towards China. So that becomes an important, that is how we started promoting Lakshadweep. Then that is how we started building a naval base. We had a Jatayu naval base which was built in order to have a closer surveillance. And then our ships are patrolling left, right, and center. So always there are these things. We are investing a lot. The defense budget itself, if you see, has multi-fold increase. The indigenization which is happening, we are focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah.
We had our first air defense carrier, which was made in India, the Vikrant, right? Vikrant. So lot of things which erstwhile we used to depend on Russia or other country for procurement and other things. Now everything has been started in our country because of the pursuit fed from so many people, and the world is not stable right now as we speak. The world is not stable.
Yeah.
We are fighting. There's Israel, Palestine, there is Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah.
And a month back, Putin had made that statement also that we may near to a World War III. So that such scenarios are not very healthy scenario. And in terms of China, day before yesterday, they claimed that they renamed certain places in Arunachal Pradesh, saying that is China's thing, irrespective. So that threat will happen. And between India and Pakistan, it is not going to be stable anytime soon because, and that's the interest of West, because they never want a stable India, Pakistan, or India, China. So there always needs to be some sort of turbulence for various things. The weapon industry, you say, or whatever you say, there are so many myths going around. But yes, India has a great stand in terms of that. So that is why we are building navies. We are having strong competency with our people, investing in weapons, technologies, indigenization, improvisation, technology, RDRDO, DRDL, PSTF, NSTL, we are all working towards it in order to, remove any perceived threat. So yes, geopolitically, this becomes, they say, the country which has a strong navy will have an upper hand.
Yeah.
And that is why the entire sea. And future, the war is not going to be a land-based war. It would be a SpaceX war, it would be a technological war.
Yeah.
So today
Yeah.
we are already into a drone war. Today we are already into drone attacks, where we are more technology. And tomorrow everything would be in space. The satellite war, which piece? So it would be an information war.
Do you think AI will have a big role in the Navy specifically?
Definitely, definitely. Like the world is moving towards AI, and I'm sure, knowing the Army, Navy, Air Force of each country, uh, so there is a saying that before the civil world moves X, Navy, Army, Air Force, we have already moved X plus one.
Okay.
So a lot of things are happening in this space because no country, no, anybody cannot make away from AI not coming into their workspace, or AI advancements happening in certain things which they were doing earlier. So I'm sure we will have to wait and watch in a couple of years what is going to be the global trend for that.
If you had a magic wand that could make you create or invent a new piece of technology for the Navy, what would it be?
Yeah, I would, something. The first thing was, as a youngster, when I went to sail, I'd experienced seasickness. So it was so bad. So if I had a magic band, I've invent something wherein you board a ship and you don't have seasickness,
Okay,
You
so
have-
that's on a personal level.
That's the first that.
Okay. Okay. There's also been a lot lately about underwater exploration, which is becoming big to, harness new types of energy, explore biodiversity, to mine, metals, minerals from the ocean as well, and lots of other reasons. Have you heard recently or less recently about any interesting discovery to do with underwater exploration? Is there anything that you've heard around the Indian Ocean or other oceans?
No much of, I'm not much aware about that.
Okay.
But yes, there is, as we move on to 2070, where world has pledged to grow, green rather, to reduce the emission and zero emission rather. That
Yeah.
is 2070, and each country is working towards that. A lot of focus on renewable energy, and lot of research going on to tap the underwater, whatever is available, how technology can be grown. What we talk today of green hydrogen, what we talk today of renewable energy through various aspects. World is talking about ESG, that is your environment, social governance, and under that so many other things starts. But frankly speaking, I'm not much aware of any technological advancement as far as the underwater is concerned. So certainly
Not
maybe
yet.
the lack of knowledge there or lack of awareness.
I wanted to ask you also what made you decide to leave the Navy after a decade of serving the Indian Navy? If I
Yeah,
may.
so see, each one of us have a certain commitment, and I had committed to Navy as a short service commission officer. So that is 10 years, 7 years rather. And since I had done some certain courses, so I had extended it to 10 years.
Okay.
And when I finished my commission, 10 years, I had a choice of continuing, but I gave my best 10 years to Navy, and then I
Yeah.
decided I need to explore outside. I have to come
Yeah.
into a civil world and see how I can be here, how I can be fit into the civilian world, and from there how I can contribute to the Navy, and which I'm doing right now. Last 15 years I'm out of Navy, but it feels as if it's yesterday. So nothing. Yes, I do miss Navy. I do miss wearing a uniform, or I do miss, but hard feelings. I'm doing my best even today, and really no hard feeling.
And you are a very keen runner. You've done ultra marathons. That's correct?
That's right.
What made you get into running? Was it something you started from the Navy times or something you started more recently?
No, so when we were in Navy, so that is the one thing which I used to hate, because every time you used to run. So so something which you don't love. I never loved running in Navy because it was always a punishment or something or the other. It was
Okay.
forced survival. But when I left Navy, I had a health scare. I'm a hypothyroid, so I was detected with hypothyroid,
Okay.
and my weight was blooming left, right, and center.
Oh, okay.
And the best thing doctor said is that get back to your basics, basics of your armed forces. That's running, which will help you sustain or your weight or reduce your weight. So I had grown up to 107 kgs, 107
Wow.
kgs once upon a time when I left Navy. So that is how I forayed into distance running. I started running, walking, running.
That's me at the moment.
Yeah, and then you get so addicted to that release of that endorphin every day morning. You need that, exercise has that power.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got sucked into that. Then it happens 10 kilometers, 21 kilometers, 42 kilometers, and the ultra marathons. And so now when you grow up, like I've been in running for so many years and have run so many marathons. Now I'm back to that. So it has become more of a lifestyle. Now, I always say that running doesn't make me run now. It is now I decide when I have to run. Earlier, it was like when I just started running marathons, every weekend I used to run a marathon, somewhere or the other. But over the years, when you run for 13, 14 years, you become mature. Running becomes part of your lifestyle now. So it's part of my lifestyle. So if I decide to train for 100 kilometers, so I can do that. If I decide I don't want to run, I can do that, So now the running doesn't control you. You control running.
Wow. What's the best ultra marathon that you've done? Was it in India?
Yeah, in India, I had done, there's something called Pata Ultra Marathon, which happens in Western Ghats, closer to Mumbai. That's a night run, 50 kilometers now. So I've done all the edition, almost 4 times I've done Pata Ultra Marathon. That's 50 kilometers. And if you say outside India, definitely is going to be Comrades. I've done twice, which is 90 kilometers. And that's a very prestigious run, which happens in South Africa.
Yeah.
So I've done twice in 19 and 23. That is last year. So ultra marathons teach you so many things. It makes you to love to yourself, It's like making that self-love. That's ultra marathon for you because you are alone and alone and alone. And then you have to train, and many a time you have to train alone. You can't,
not in
unlike
groups.
small runs where you have company. Here you should, as a runner, you should start loving yourself and your runs. And you should learn to run alone. That is where you become an ultra marathon. So for me, ultra marathon is absolute peace, and I always look forward. Currently, I've taken a small break from running just to recuperate and come back strongly.
Okay.
So as of now, yes, I do run shorter distance now.
Okay. So we've almost reached the end of our podcast. I could keep talking to you. You've got such rich experiences, but I'm aware of time constraints. This is called Heart Life Rhythm. So if I had to ask you, sir, what one memorable experience or observation or lesson that you will always carry in your heart from the Indian Navy?
Yeah, so one lesson which I carry from Navy is that, always believe in yourself, always believe in yourself. Because that is what I did when I was aiming to join the Navy from a very small place. I never thought people would never give me a chance saying that, you can't from a small place. But that self-belief, that made me reach to Navy. That self-belief carried me throughout Navy. That self-belief again made me an ultra marathoner and so many hats which I wear. And if you ask me that one thing which I learned from the armed forces is that self-belief, and nation always above everything,
First.
nation first. That is the ethos which we carry.
Great. It was delightful speaking to you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I think our audience has learned a lot of things from different topics from you, so something for everybody. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javina. Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure. And I'm pretty amazed the way you had framed the question. You have researched it so well. Because
It's a
many a time,
subject
of course,
that fascinates me, but we see a lot about the army and about the air forces, but the navy you don't see that much in the news or on TV. So I thank you very much for all those insights. Really, thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.